loyal fight fans, to another fantastic fan-friendly episode of Unboxing. I am your host, Tummy Tom, and as always, I so much appreciate the thumbs up button and the subscribe button. Helps me out greatly, but the most important thing of all for me or any of your favorite YouTube channels is always going to be sharing the content around. So let's jump right into it. We're going to give you what you want to hear. I didn't touch on this fight. We're going to talk about the Francis Ngannou versus Tyson Fury fight. That's the first thing. Then we're going to get into some, well, now, after the fact, quote-unquote, real boxing. The reason I didn't talk about this fight originally is because, for one, the lines didn't seem like, I give you guys gambling odds on this show, so I didn't think this would be a competitive fight whatsoever. I'm somebody who, unlike everybody else on their YouTube platform that had talked about this so-called uncompetitive fight, they gave you their predictions. I'm here to be super honest, because listen, on this show, I have not talked about this fight, but I'm just going to be honest. The reason that I didn't is because I'm the same as all those other people. I would have predicted this would be highly uncompetitive and a money grab fight, a gimmick fight, if you will. Francis Ngannou was heavyweight champion in MMA in the UFC organization before he left there, taking on Tyson Fury, who's literally a generational talent, and one of the best heavyweights. He is not, I do not put him above like a Lennox Lewis or, these people for certain accomplishments, but he's up there, man. He's definitely a top 10 all-time heavyweight, 100%. And I just thought that Francis would stand no chance. Not because he's not a YouTube guy. He's a real fighter. But MMA is a different sport. And so as we get into this right now, what I want to tell you guys is that I'm going to be explaining why a lot of MMA fans, there was a lot of boxing fans like myself who watched this fight. And came out of there like, goddamn, very surprising. Very surprising the capabilities of Francis Ngannou in this fight, how much he was able to learn in a short amount of time. But a large majority of people who watch this fight are MMA fans. And there are a large group, just like in boxing, this is the same for boxing as for MMA. A large group of the overall fan base is kind of casual fans. So never mind not even realizing about good fighters in MMA, of which I would probably know a lot more than most casual fans of MMA, not to mention that they don't even know a lot of their own fighters, that are on the undercards and up-and-coming stars and whatnot if they're casual fans of MMA. But they certainly, a lot of them have most likely never watched a boxing match all the way through. To be honest, there's a large group of people who came for this fight because of Francis Ngannou who maybe have never watched a boxing fight before. So there's different things to touch on as far as this fight. And what I'm going to start with is that I was wrong because I predicted this would be uncompetitive. It was actually a very competitive fight. And also, like I said, Francis and what he was able to learn in just strictly boxing, learning to stick the jab and learning to throw his punches faster, more linear, short punches, not those looping crazy shots that he would throw in MMA, which is another level of a reason why I thought this fight would be uncompetitive, because there are many better looking MMA strikers that I see all the time, on UFC undercards and whatnot, that would look like they would be more suited to try to have a little bit of an easier transition than Francis would into boxing. Francis picked up a lot. And also, for the casual fans out there, I know that you saw him training with Mike Tyson a lot. That really was more of a gimmick thing. Tyson did train him a bit, like when he's there, he'd go, I'll show you some things that I would do. But also, how relatable was that ever going to be to what a gigantic framed man who is much taller, when Tyson's showing him how the peekaboo style and how to dip way down, and look, and this is how I get all the way down to by my knee to throw in the body shot. These are men of different statures, different frames. One is much taller than the other, so I didn't know how much that would play. Not only that, Mike Tyson only there sometimes, and when he's there, he'll train him a little something. But really, Eric Nixick is Francis Ngannou's trainer for MMA all through in UFC and winning the belt and whatnot. And Eric Nixick has a lot. He's there every day. He's there every day. And also. There was another boxer, and his name is fucking escaping me now, you guys. But you can look this up. There was another boxing trainer who was actually the main boxing trainer for France. So those guys, him and Eric Nixick, are the ones that really deserve a lot of this credit for what they were able to do. He looked a lot faster all of a sudden, which is something that really is like hard to be taught. Like, you can teach to throw certain kinds of punches. I don't know how the man looked so much faster than any MMA fight I have ever seen him in his entire career. Looked so much faster. Also, this was shocking. So Tyson Fury, and also this is a main point that I haven't heard on other shows talk about a lot, because they've talked about this fight a lot. Some of these things I'm going to say will be parallel, but I'll start you off with one that I have not heard been talked about. And this is a big part of the reason why I thought Francis had some success in this fight, is because it was shocking to see that, Tyson Fury, so his career, he came up, even though he's a very large man, he relied on his footwork and the sweet science, sticking the jab, having great legs, and being able to move around, and being a good fundamental boxer, being safe. He won a lot of decisions. Actually didn't have a lot of knockouts earlier on in his career. The Wilder fight, and when he switched over to Sugar Hill and the Crunk Gym and that old school aggressive style that they teach, was the only time when he now was saying, from that second Wilder fight, now I'm going to bully this guy. I'm being taught by, Sugar Hill and the Crunk Gym, and so that's when he became more of a bully style fighter, leaning on people, learning that, hey, I'm fucking huge. They say he's 6'9", he's probably not 6'9", he's probably more like 6'7", but that's still very massive. So, a 6'7" guy just leaning on you, putting all his weight on you. When they clinch, when there's some dirty stuff going, putting the arm on the back of the neck and weighing down. This stuff really diminishes your legs. Having a guy like that lean on you is hard to deal with. And Wilder is a giant man as well, so he's very tall, right? And he's notoriously, possibly the hardest hitter in boxing ever for one-shot power. So we made a lot of comparisons, myself included, to this fight where basically you're going to have another Wilder, because the guy's not going to know how to box so good, Francis Ngannou, and sure, he's big, but we've already seen Tyson bully bigger guys. But you know what I didn't think of is Deontay Wilder, his legs are very small, very slender, and he does hit very hard, but it's that fast twitch muscle fiber that he's got going on. He doesn't, he's shredded because he doesn't have much body fat on him, but he's not nearly as massive in muscle as Francis is. And his weight, because of all of this, is way down. He doesn't actually weigh that much. And so when you have a guy coming in at 230 or something and versus a 240 versus a guy coming in at 280 like Tyson, Francis came into this fight at about 270, 275 of pure huge muscle. So when we saw inside fighting, Francis was better. Not only because this is something that incorporates with MMA a lot. So you're going to have problems more from the outside and with the jab. But when they were inside and Tyson would try to lean on him, this is kind of what happened in the start of this fight. He's like, okay, I'll box you a little in the first round. Second round, you'll see me. I'm going to start leaning on you a little. I'm going to impose myself on you. And Francis would shrug him right off of him and almost get him off balance with the power of shrugging him off of him easily. And the inside fighting itself, like he'd push him off and hit him with an uppercut on his way out. And basically, that was very surprising to me as well, but it makes sense when you think about it. This is a guy that, in Tyson Fury, who can box, and he had to box in this fight, but he was used to those wilder fights. And even Dillian White after and Derek Chisora, both, again, much smaller men than him. So he was used to being able to lean on these people and put these weight on these other fighters in a way that he wasn't able to do on Francis. Francis push him out, uppercut him on his way out. You know, there was the little dirty little Tyson, little sneaky, cheeky little elbow in there the one time. But besides that, better inside fighter all around, Francis Ngannou was. And that was, he told him immediately, now this is going to be my area. I will show you. You don't want to be on the inside with me. So then Tyson got dropped in the third round. Shocking, right? Now, personally, I always knew Tyson's been dropped many times. He's been dropped, I think, 3 different times, or maybe even 4, in those 3 different Deontay Wilder fights. He was dropped by a cruiserweight that was coming up to heavyweight back in the day in boxing. Tyson's been dropped before. So this wasn't shocking to me, because even though he's a good, but he can kind of let himself go a little, and you also never know what kind of level of Tyson Fury you're going to get in a fight, of how hard he trained, where his mindset is at, so on and so forth. So I wasn't that shocked when he got dropped as the rest of the world was, but I thought even then, what's going to happen now is he'll get up and he'll be safer and he'll box and win all these rounds, and then what will happen is Francis's gas tank will fall out from under him, and this is when he'll be able to impose himself again. And once you're real tired and Tyson Fury is not at all, then we can start the leaning process again and fighting on the inside or outside or just wherever you want to, and have your way with the man when his gas tank falls apart. But that never happened either. So that was another shocking thing about this fight. And yes, I had Tyson Fury winning this fight, but this was a very close fight. Okay, so I have a scorecard here for you guys, and I'm going to run through it. And these right here are going to be your rounds. See, 1, 2, 3. Those are your rounds. These numbers that are off on the side over here, that's a CompuBox punch stats. So those are going to be important in understanding all of this as well. So the first round, I gave definitely Tyson Fury. Now it's a feel-out round, and sure, there's not a lot that happened, but he almost doubled his punch output. So in a round where not much happened. So absolutely no debating it. Round 1 is for Tyson Fury. He scored 11 shots to Francis's 6. Fury in the second, and that was a close round. Put a star by that, because that second round is kind of close. But I gave that to Fury as well. 7 shots for Fury to 6 for Ngannou. But see, when you get that close in the punch stats, it's still just like, well, which was more effective? So 2 was close, and you could swing that for Francis. I happen to give that for Fury, but we're going all over this. Round number 3, obviously Ngannou, and a 10-8 round because he dropped him. And even the punch stats in this one, Fury landing 1 clean punch, Francis 7. Round 4, I also gave to Ngannou, landing 8 shots to 6. And Fury was trying to be a little more reserved after he did get rattled, getting dropped like that. Round 5, I gave to Fury, 9 punches to 6. Round 6, that's for Fury, 9 punches to 5. 7 has a star because it's close as well. This is 5 to 5 in a round where nothing dramatic happened in round 7, and it's 5 punches to 5. So technically, and these close rounds are important in the scoring of this fight, because this is how you get to understand the full feel of how I saw the fight and most people did versus what some other people might have seen. I don't think is that far off. So I gave that to Fury, but again, you could give round 7 to Ngannou. Round 8 is where Ngannou shows us, oh, my gas tank isn't failing. I'm going to hurt him again in this round. Didn't drop him, but he very much hurt him, and definitely had a hell of a round in round 8. That's definitely Ngannou's round. And then round 9 and round 10, I scored for Fury. Now, some people had that round 9 close because of the fact that Francis came out and landed 2 clean punches in a combination to start the round off. Now, what's important to know is that the rounds are 3 minutes, so for the other 2 minutes and 45 seconds of this 3-minute round, Ngannou didn't land a single other punch. He only landed those 2 punches per copy box stats and to my eyes and what I saw that started that round off really good. Tyson outscored him 8-2 on landed connected punches. And round 10 is Fury, 6 punches to 4. So again, punch stats for the rounds. Round 1 for and down to 10. This is for Tyson Fury. 11, 7, 1, 6, 9, 9, 5, 9, 8, 6. For Ngannou, 6, 6, 7, 8, 6, 5, 5, 10, 2, and 4. So Ngannou did fade a little bit later, but had a hell of a round 8, which was close enough to the end. Showed us that his gas tank could hold up. So my scorecard for this fight is 96-93 for Tyson Fury. Upon my first watch, because I've watched this fight a few times to give you guys a really good layout of what happened here, I did have it 95-94 for Tyson Fury. And again, I think the 2 swing rounds here are definitely round 7 and even round 2 as well. So I think those are the ones that are swing rounds in this competition. And if you swung both of those rounds, if you swung both of them for Ngannou, that would leave you with a 95-94 Ngannou scorecard, which we did get off the one judge, who I'm usually here telling you that, this is horrible judging. Though I don't agree with his scorecard, that's not horrible judging. That's not corruption stuff. These are a lot of fans that are saying this kind of stuff in a very close fight. A lot of fans are saying, well, Ngannou should have won this fight. The fact he didn't was a robbery, shows that boxing is corrupt, yada, yada. Now, I just came off of doing a corruption episode that I worked months and months on. Months and months. I've been a diehard boxing fan. I've boxed before. I am very involved in this sport. I know a fair amount about it. And I gave you guys a corruption thing because there is a problem with corruption in boxing. There is a problem with bad judging every single weekend in boxing, every single one. This wasn't one of them to me. This wasn't one of them, you guys. So when you have a lot of MMA fans that are watching this, all due respect, if you guys don't watch boxing a lot, it would be the exact same thing as a boxing fan coming over, watching a little Conor McGregor fight, and then talking a mad shit and saying, oh, this is rigged, this is bullshit. You guys get bad scorecards in MMA too, because I watch that sport as well. And every week in the UFC, you can find, even if it is deep on the undercard, some bad judging. And that gets talked about with real MMA fans as well. So it should be nothing new, but this wasn't one of them, I think. This wasn't one of them. So that narrative we need to throw out. Throw that out right now, because you're going to just wait. You know, we have some fights coming up this weekend in boxing. Just wait. We'll have a horrible scorecard. And the only difference is, if it's on the undercard and not a lot of people know these guys, then only me and some other hardcore boxing fans actually care about it. You guys don't care about it because you'll never hear about it. But those are actually the ones a lot of times that show some real shady dealings or some horrible judging scorecards. Those are the ones usually, and every now and again in a main event. But this one, you guys just said that because it was a close fight. And the deal is that I'm a big Francis fan as well. Now, I'm more of a boxing guy, so of course, and I do like Tyson Fury. I think he should be fighting Alexander Usyk before this, but that's besides the point. We all know that story. I'm a big Francis fan, and I was happy that Francis did so well, and shocked as well. And he did do so well. He did make this a close fight, a very close fight. And he was the guy who came out of it like, I dropped the lineal heavyweight champion of the world in my first pro boxing fight. So fucking absolutely nuts. But that is more the point. The point is that Francis did so overexceed in his boxing match. And he is a very humble, easy to like human being as well. And a fantastic, thrilling fighter all through his career in MMA, and then came into boxing and made this thrill fest that nobody, including myself, saw coming. So that's the point. All due respect to Francis, but when we see a guy overexceed so much and tell that Rocky story in real time, in real life, and we're watching it. Even me, I had that closer scorecard, and I was thinking, could this, oh man, could this have gone to Francis in real time? And that's okay, because it was a close fight. But no, this isn't a robbery. You need criteria to have a robbery. You need somebody to be outscored in a horrible, horrible way to get a robbery, to come to that conclusion. Or this was the worst judge's scorecard I've ever seen. One guy did score it for Ngannou, and I personally don't agree with his scorecard for a 95-94 to Ngannou. But yeah, that's my scorecard, 96-93. Francis, much faster, better inside fighter. I think he could do well in boxing after seeing that. But before we get off this subject, I do also want to throw a little bit of sourness on this parade again, just because if we're talking about the reality of things, what really is true here is that Ngannou overperformed. Ngannou fought his ass off, and Ngannou took this first boxing fight apparently extremely, extremely serious and knew all along. I mean, it's obvious now that he knew all along. Fuck whatever everybody else is saying. I know this isn't a money grab. I'm coming to win this fight. I'm coming to give this fight everything I got, and I trained my ass off and took boxing as its own sport extremely serious in learning how to do it. So full credit to him. But just for the truth's sake, we needed that with Francis combined with a Tyson Fury who definitely didn't take Francis Ngannou as serious as Francis took him. We needed a Tyson Fury that was a little more out of shape than we've even seen for even his own standards in other fights before this, and didn't take him that serious. We needed that perfect combination to make this happen. We just did. We needed that. So that's how those are my feels on that fight, but definitely worth being talked about, especially because I felt a responsibility to do it, to just teach you guys on some scoring. And then that's the last part, is the MMA, again, scoring versus boxing. It's different criteria. That you guys don't understand as well. So MMA is as well judged round by round on a 10-must system, just like boxing is judged round by round on a 10-must system. Within that scoring, the scoring criteria per round is different. So in MMA, damage is the most important thing. In boxing, not all the time. You can have judges. There are many scoring criteria. There's boxing. There's ring generalship. There's damage. There's all these different. There's even defense that some judges prefer to score on when we see good defense, but they don't have a lot of output. And it's just up to each individual judge. And I'm not saying it's a perfect system, but what I am telling you guys is that that is how the scoring criteria works, and that judges can each have their own preference of what they like to score on in every fight that they judge, really, because it's their own preference that they're taking out of the many different preferences you can have in the scoring criteria. In MMA, they have a steadfast one. It's damage is the most important. After that, it's something else. It's strikes landed and your numbers. I think after that is like a wrestling control time is lower on the scale now if you're not going for submissions or ground and pound. So that's another thing, is you guys can't come over to. We want you to watch boxing, but you can't come over to watch boxing when you never watched boxing before and then see your guy do really well and deserve all the credit in the world by everyone, but then say this was a robbery because he made the fight close and he wasn't supposed to have a chance. That's not what a robbery is. That's just what our heart wants when we see a guy try so hard and over succeed everyone's expectations of him. We want that to be the Rocky story. But the scoring is made different, and also what gets lost in the equation is you guys have 3-round fights, and then your championship fights are 5 rounds. Now, they are 5 minutes, so it's still less time, but it's almost close to being the same as time was. The rounds are much shorter. There's 3 rounds in most fights, and championship main event fights, that's 5 rounds. Boxing, this is a 10-round contest, and our championship rounds are 12. So there's a lot more rounds, right? So you watch the first couple rounds, like, oh, 1 and 2, there's not a lot happening, even if you did give it to Ty. Like, he's not dominating him. Wow. Then he gets dropped in 3. Wow. Oh, he's doing good and making a couple competitive rounds. And then he has a hell of a round 8. This is close to, like, so I watched this guy win the fight. But no. He only has 2 sure rounds. He only has round 3 and round 8. Those are the only sure rounds. And I still did give him 4, right? And that's not a sure round. And rounds 2 and 7 are close, but those aren't definitely. They're close because they're not sure rounds. So he only definitely won 2 rounds, although one was a 10-8 score out of 10 rounds. Those are his only. So that by itself, just off of the criteria of what I just said, is impossible to call something like that a robbery. Impossible. But yes, the fight was more competitive than what I just laid out for you, but I need to lay that out. Then we had another great one. Let's talk before we go about some real boxing here, because over the weekend this was a fight that got way overshadowed by a very popular, fan-friendly, casual fan fight in Francis versus Tyson Fury. We had Eduardo Hernandez taking on O'Shaquie Foster, and that was real deal boxing, you guys. O'Shaquie Foster, right, taking on Hernandez. This fight, on odds-wise, was almost a pick'em on odds, and Hernandez making this fight pretty competitive throughout to make the whole fight fun to watch. But O'Shaquie Foster making this fight competitive enough throughout to make it interesting and keep watching. But at the time of round 12, okay, at the time of round 12, we had a scorecard that was very much ahead for Hernandez. Okay, Hernandez put in a lot of work in this fight to fight a very good boxer in O'Shaquie Foster, and he was way ahead. So the fight was competitive and fun all the way through, but you knew, unless we got a shit scorecard, Hernandez wins this fight before it was over. And we go into round 12, and O'Shaquie Foster just comes out and fucking stops him in the last round. And that alone, on top of an all-around great fight, and to stop him at the end, this literally was up there with like a fucking Corrales Castillo thing. Although there wasn't all those him getting dropped all those times, so that's still way more epic. But this fight was kind of like that, dude. It was kind of like that fight, because there was no way he wins unless he stops him. No way that he wins unless he stops him. If they gave him a decision without stopping him, any of those judges, it would be notoriously one of the worst scorecards that we'd ever seen. That's how much Hernandez was up in this fight for sure. And even if you granted Foster some of those closer rounds, you're still not making it to even so much as a draw. And he did what it took, man, and he stopped him in the end. And that was fucking an instant classic of a boxing fight. So if you guys want to see a great boxing fight, you need to go back and watch that fight. It didn't get the credit that it deserved. I would have talked about it ahead of time, not even knowing that it would be that fucking good. But it was a very well-matched fight from the matchmakers, and the odds were reflective of that. And I just didn't have enough time in my schedule to talk about it beforehand. But I'm giving it what it's due right now and telling you need to go and watch that fight. That fight even was supposed to be really good and still exceeded expectations. Absolutely magical what O'Shaquie Foster was able to do there at the end. Now, he's 22-2. Or 23-2, something like that. So he had those 2 losses that were earlier on in his career. And O'Shaquie Foster is just showing us that he's got what it takes, man. Because really, we know this guy is being a good enough boxer. But to stop this guy when he was down in round 12 is fucking nuts. Absolutely nuts.